In this video, I'm going to cover the 10 biggest lessons that I've learned as an enterprise architect in the last 25 years. So I've been an enterprise architect for about 25 years now. I've trained enterprise architects that work at organizations throughout the world, and this is my favorite job. But there were 10 big lessons that I learned throughout the career. Some came easy, some were a little painful, and I'd like to share them with you to speed up your enterprise architecture career. The first one is about your elevator pitch. Look, we're all going to have a first meeting with a client, and you have to be able to describe what is it that you actually do. And I've had clients, I've walked into the room and they say, Mike, could you tell me what you did? Because the last person tried to tell me that they architect the enterprise and I don't know what that means, so I couldn't go with them. And I've heard that more times than you can count. You have to be able to walk into an organization and explain to them what you actually do. So get rid of all the noise, meaning tell them what you actually do. So what you actually do as an enterprise architect is find the most efficient way for people to do their jobs. And then you, basically speaking, figure out the right kinds of technology to supercharge those employees so they can do their jobs in the best manner possible. What we really do is align people, processes, and technologies, which, as it turns out, are the main functions of business. Now, the next thing that I learned, and I've seen so many architectures go wrong here, is because of bias. Bias towards a particular vendor, bias towards a particular technology is one of the most dangerous things we can actually have in enterprise architecture. What's best for the client is not based on anything other than the client's unique needs. Imagine a physician that had a bias towards a certain company's medications and they didn't use the best medications for their patients. That would be horrible, right? Well, it's the same thing for the enterprise architect or a cloud architect or any architect for that matter. We have to understand that every technology has its own strengths and its own weaknesses. And what's going to be right for our client is going to be the one that best meets our client's needs after we evaluate all the different trade-offs that actually are going to come with those decisions. That's what's right for us. Now, the next one is to keep your architecture simple, stupid, the KISS method. When we are dealing with enterprise architecture, complexity is just inevitable because of the size and the skill that we're dealing with. But the problem becomes is at some point, if the complexity is not managed, scaling will be challenging, failures will occur, and adding new offerings to the business or new ways to do things in the business will become difficult or impossible. So this becomes something that becomes very problematic. So we have to work hard to remove the complexity. Can we minimize the number of applications? Can we optimize the routing? Can we optimize the security in a better way that we're doing it? Is there some optimization we can do to make things more simple and elegant? Now, at every decision point we make as enterprise architects, we should consider the following. What is the simplest option? And if we have a simple option and we have another option which is slightly more complex, do the benefits of the more complex solution outweigh the trade-offs? Meaning, are all the complexities were actually worth it long-term with where the organization is going and what that will do to their long-term architecture, flexibility, and agility? Now, probably the biggest lesson that I learned over 25 years is it's all about your architecture team. The only architectures that are going to really be great are going to be the ones where we get input from, obviously, the stakeholders, the organization, and their business needs. But I'm talking about your actual architecture team. You're going to need various architects from various levels of expertise and disciplines, like security architects, network architects, IAM architects, big data architects, AI architects on your team, for example. You're also going to need some rock solid engineers, the people that are down and dirty with the technology every day that know it best. And they're going to find all those little minor details that some of the architects might miss along the way. And I even like to get the technicians involved that'll be doing an installation. For example, if there's cabling and things, I want a technician's perspective too, because somebody has to make sure that this architecture can actually be deployed, even if we're not deploying itself. So I always want to get that kind of feedback. And at the end of the day, architecture is a team sport. It's about creating the right architecture team that can help you deliver the best solutions for that business. And really speaking, you'll want people to help with the business architecture, the network architecture, the security architecture, the compute architecture, the storage architecture, the data architecture, AI, and the list is just going to keep going on. So the next thing that I learned is this is a job of influence. Our enterprise architecture is a job of influence. It's a job of leadership. And the key here is we have to be able to guide the client into making the best decisions. We have to help enlist the effort of others in our work all the time, creating an architecture team of people that may not even work for us. We need to work with stakeholders to get their buy-in and support. And we need to be able to change the corporate culture prior to rolling out a new architecture to get the users to support it. So this is a job of influence. So I would really hone your skills here. I know I got a lot of executive training and influence. I got a lot of executive coaching here. I think I read every book that Robert Cialdini put out at least a few times and took some influence training as well. So I can highly recommend developing your skill set here. Now, this one, I know every architect should think about it, but I've got to tell you, I've had a lot of clients that I can't believe some of the systems they actually had. And here's what I mean. We always need to know the client's ability. We have to assess the client's maturity and capabilities. And all too often, I've seen people design an architecture that the client couldn't even understand, let alone manage. And if the client doesn't have the sophistication for a solution, either look for an alternative solution or see if the client's willing to outsource all of the management of the solution. Because if you don't, it's going to get very complex, things are going to break, and no one's going to be able to deal with it. And I'd say a third to half of my life was fixing architectures that the client had no idea how to understand or support, and that's where there are things that were breaking constantly. Now, the next one, this is my personal thing. I created my own architecture repository a long time ago, long before I even knew what an architecture repository was. I have my own architecture repository, and obviously keep it secure, keep it locked down, and don't have anything for which you can't keep on your systems because of NDA or other things that you would have signed. But I have an environment where I store old requests for proposals that I've worked on in the past and previous architectures for various challenges. And that way it gives me a place to go back, a place for me to refresh myself of the thinking of maybe 50 great architects and what they put together for a various challenge. And then I can look at that for inspiration and ideas for my new client. And in some cases, certain patterns are actually reusable. So every client is going to have their own unique needs, but you may find clients with similar challenges. And some of the work you've done in the past may be really helpful for you and your clients in the first place. But don't break NDAs, and obviously don't do anything wrong, but keep a record of the bigger things you've worked on. Now, the next one is about obtaining information. I'm going to tell you, I've solved so many problems where people had invested a lot of money, they put in a new architecture to solve a problem, but they solved the wrong problem. This is easily solved by getting all the information long before you come into the solution. And we have to be systematic and we have to be methodical about how we get the information. I typically recommend using the strategy consultant approach where you make mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive hypotheses. And basically you'll define the problem and you'll generate an initial hypothesis. And then you'll create other hypotheses, and then you'll test each one. So here's what I mean. Let's say an organization was dealing with slow performance. It could be the application, it could be the compute, it could be the network, it could be anything. So you create your hypotheses. It's the network. And then you'd either prove that it's the network or prove that it's not the network. So someone would actually look at the network. They would look and see if there's any packet loss across the network. They would look at the latency. They would look for link congestion. They would see if the data can make it from point A to point B. And if everything shows up good, then it's probably not the network. And then they would say, okay, let's test the compute. And then they would look at the server and they would look at the CPU and then they would look at the various things on that server, like storage performance. And if that's not it, you go to the next thing. And this needs to be done for everything to make sure you get to the right problem. So I typically like taking a problem, being able to find myself, defining the problem, generating a bunch of hypotheses, prioritizing the hypotheses, and testing these hypotheses to make sure we got to the right program. By the way, this mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive approach is used by most management consulting firms and strategy consulting firms when they deal with clients to get to the heart of the problem. And guess what? Enterprise architects are strategy consultants, so why not use the same framework? Now, this ninth one is really that the stakeholders are the key. Now, it doesn't matter how great you get the processes, how great your technology is, and how beautiful your architecture is if the organization and its people don't use the system. So how do you make sure that the client is not only using the systems, they've designed it right, but the employees are going to use it? Well, it's going to be critical to get to the stakeholders early, get the stakeholders' input immediately, get them engaged, get their buy-in, develop a relationship with the stakeholders, and make sure you address stakeholder needs and concerns throughout your architecture. And when the stakeholders finally agree to the architecture and they support their architecture and you have their buy-in, work with the key stakeholders to create marketing plans for the organization around the two technologies. Work with the organization to create the right training materials if that's necessary, appropriate. And maybe work to help identify key organizational influencers that can help other employees want to go to things. Because in some companies, we have managers, and then we also have other people that are leaders of power on that team, even without a management title that people listen to. Those people are going to be key that we have to work with as well. And the 10th of this is that enterprise architecture is a job of relationships. And the better your relationships, the better your outcomes will be, because you'll have better information. People will be more likely to call you. They're more likely to listen to your guidance. So how do you enhance these relationships? Go visit the client. There's nothing like an in-person experience with a client to build a relationship. Go visit the client, take them to lunch, take them to dinner, take them to drinks, take them to all three, go play golf with their client, go actually get to know them. Care about them too. Now, do what you say. If you say you're going to do something at a certain time, do it by that time. Always. If there's things going back and forth with the client, follow up. If somebody calls you, respond to a call or a message as quickly as you can. And if you can't respond to it for 24 hours and you get a call, it's okay to say in a text message that I am just jumped on an airplane on the way to Hong Kong, for example, but I'll call you when I get there, or something to let somebody know that you'll get back to them, that you do care about them. And probably the biggest of these is to fight for your client. There is going to be times where your client's going to need something, and then you fight for them, you're going to enhance that relationship. And obviously, don't take a quick win or a quick sell to get a little money here or a little option or one single promotion and damage a relationship that you're going to need for the rest of your life. Enterprise architecture has been the career of my life. I've been an enterprise architect for about 25 years, held other architect roles, and I think it's the best job in the world. And I really hope you enjoy these suggestions. If you'd like to become an enterprise architect, a cloud architect, a security architect, an AI architect, or a network architect, we have a program for you. Join us for a free webinar and learn how to become an architect. And in any of these free webinars, we'll go over the skills of the architect. We'll talk about what you need to learn, whether you learn it with us or not. And of course, we'll answer any career questions you have completely free. So join us. And you can find out about these free webinars in the description of this video. If you want to learn how to get if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of new videos to assist you in your technology career. This is Mike Gibbs signing off for now, and I hope to see you in a webinar or new video soon. Take care.